Welcome to the Featured Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rick.
And today we are talking about Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent, which was a recommendation by Old Man Jeb. Yes. But before that, we were talking about Dragon Ball and whether or not Rick has some strong feelings for the new canon Super Saiyan 4 form. If you want to catch a wider part of that conversation, go ahead and join us live on twitch.tv/featured anime podcast. Whenever we go live, feel free to follow us, hang out with us, chat with us, everything else. And of course, you can also reach out to us through our Discord and feel free to tell us we're a couple of dum-dums or magnificent individuals. Your choice, really. I prefer the magnificent, but hey. Of course, all our contact information and everything like that is available in the show notes for you. And of course, you can hear that pre and post show that we usually do with every episode on our Patreon feed at patreon.com/featured anime podcast. $1 a month will get you access to that bonus content. And of course, let us not forget some nice, wonderful, delicious Tokyo treats. If you use our coupon code Featured Anime and the link that we have in our show notes, you get $5 off that very first box. And trust me, the treats are delicious. And we also have a couple of affiliate links for you for Crunchyroll down there. Go ahead and click on them. Help support us, helps us grow. And you get yourself some discounts and a free trial. And now on to the main show. The Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent originally came out in April 2021 through June 2021. Producers for it are ATX, Kadokawa, and Bandai Namco Arts. Studio for it is Dio Media. And the genres for it are fantasy, romance, slice of life, isekai, and it is based off of a light novel, and it is 12 episodes long. Now, Saint's Magic Power is Omnipotent follows, say, an office worker who honestly looks to be overworked and alone, suddenly finds herself summoned to a fantasy world. In this world, a summoning is done to bring a saint to their world to help save them from this miasma. But instead of one being summoned this time, there were actually two. When the prince ends up walking in, he dismisses Sei as some random wet nurse and goes for the other girl, calling her the saint. And now Sei is left to her own devices. And so she, as a result, decides to join a research institute to pursue her passions and to try build a peaceful life for herself. As a result, she ends up discovering her own magical abilities and makes invaluable contributions to the kingdom where her home is now. This is not your typical isekai anime where you see a lot of action. This is one that's more of a blend of romance, fantasy, and slice of life with more really heavy focus on character growth, I feel like. And that's not something we typically get in our isekai anime. Typically, it's a lot of action, a lot of action.
I mean, there was a fair amount of action here too, but not nearly. I agree that this was unique in the sense that we saw not just emotional growth, but I would say more behind the scenes stuff, you know?
Yeah. For sure. And I feel like this is definitely kind of a show where it's a slow burn, where you're not going to typically have that usual feel for it, right? Because when she's summoned to the world, normally when someone's summoned to the world, they're all powerful. Now she, in a matter of speaking, is very powerful. It's just she's powerful in a different respect. So there's people that are stronger than her, who have the capacity for more magic, including the other person that was teleported there. And when I say capacity for more magic, I mean the breadth in which they can use. So fire, water, wind, all that other stuff, other elements. And while the other person can use all those, her magic capacity isn't as high as what Sei's is. And Sei's has the absolute highest magic capacity that can't be measured. And she also has she has kind of like a hidden bonus that affects a lot of other people at the same time.
I would say that along with the bonus, she's got the desire. Because you might have all of the benefits in the world. If you have no drive, you have no gusto is not the right way to put it, but you have no desire to do anything. You could just be a lazy, all-powerful being. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So like she shows interest in pretty much everything after having a really rocky start. And I feel like she doesn't initially feel like she belongs. And you see that crisis. You see that, I don't know, second guessing. Like, do I belong here kind of thing? And it's kind of nice. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's nice to see that kind of story being told. Now, what I will say, because of the slow burn and because all the male voice actors had a very sultry, calming, overly good sound to them, I was thinking that she was being set up for a good 75% of it. I felt like, thankfully I was wrong, but I felt like this was going to take a really harsh left turn where you go from a phenomenal, hey, you're doing great, to, well, we can start your line. We can turn you from this all-powerful being to now an all-powerful lineage, and you have no choice. And it was very not sword art. It was very Shield Hero-esque vibes I was getting originally. Thankfully, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I was very wrong.
Yeah. No,
but
they definitely made you kind of feel like it could have gone very bad if it was set. Like, they had the makings for this going hard left easily. But then at the same time, when you watch it and you see the beginning setup and everything else, you're like, it'd be really weird. It'd be hard pressed for them to go a hard, take that hard left after that build up, especially in the first episode. Right. And then
here's why. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Here's why I thought that. They summoned the saint, but they summoned two on accident. And one of them was immediately taken. Oh, you're the saint. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. Oh, you just have above average magic. So we have our key piece here. You're just extra. And I was like, well, what do you do with extra? And it was nice to see that come full circle in the anime, where actions have consequences. People have responsibility, no matter how bullheadish they are. They have, I'm not going to say a higher calling, but they understand their position and they play it well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do like how this show portrayed everyone. So it's not that everyone was evil or bad or whatever. Even when they were bad, they acknowledged their own faults and their own wrongdoings and would end up, I feel like in the show, do what they can to help make it so that way others weren't blamed or exercised or anything like that for their faults. Take the prince who walked in and called the other girl Arya.
I feel like Arya was one of her names.
Yeah. Anyways, like, they could have taken her and, completely blamed her for everything, completely ostracized her, made her an outcast or anything like that. Instead, the prince, he goes out of his way to make sure that doesn't happen, especially when he finds out what's actually going on and what ends up happening. He immediately starts making moves. He's like, how was I supposed to know? And he's upset. He's upset with himself for his short-sightedness. He's upset with himself for the blunder, because he's brought up before his own shortcomings in the fact that the line of succession is always being contested between him and his brother, because his brother, obviously younger, is second in line to the throne versus the prince who's, there. And but at the same time, you can tell he's very full and sure of himself, and it's nice to see that sweet justice just come back and bite him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way that I would look at it is it wasn't necessarily just sweet justice. In his secret meeting, let's call it, with his own confidant, he made it very apparent, I know I made a mistake, but I need to be responsible for this because I cannot, in good conscience, have somebody take the fall for me. Could I? Yes. Is it the right thing to do? No. It's not how I was raised. It's not how I was meant to be brought up. And it's not how I want to walk through life. And when you had bad people, there weren't bad people.
Right. Well, that when I say sweet justice, I don't mean like, oh, he's just been a horrible individual all the way through. It's like, no, karma came back for him for his short-sightedness. And so when I say sweet justice, that's what I mean. I mean, he acknowledged his own shortcomings. He acknowledged everything that had happened. And even other people around him have recognized it. Even his fiance calls him out on it. It's like, hey, you planned for this. You planned all this so that way this wasn't happen. And he still stands true. He's like, no, I'm just arrogant and this and that. And this is my own fault. 100%. I blah, blah, blah. And moved on. So that when I say sweet justice, I mean like for his short-sightedness and brash actions, he gets the outcome that's rightful for it. However, he does more than make up for it with his actions to help prevent any potential negative consequences to the other parties involved.
Yeah, it's a very grown-up thing that he does, especially for how immature he is shown to be throughout the rest of the show, throughout the remainder, or the rest of the show. He's a very minor character that has a major role. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it does. So, yeah. And the thing that was refreshing about this show is that it seems that everyone around, maybe I didn't see it, everyone around recognizes that people aren't the problem. The miasma, the beasts, the evil things roaming the forests, that's where the problem lies.
Well, everyone knows this. And that's
yes, but
that's
but
why they
shows you'll also see internal bickering and fighting and someone always sides with the evil monsters. You know, here they didn't. Here they're like, yeah, it's us against them and we are united. So yeah. I didn't see any backstabbing. I didn't see any traps. I didn't see any scheming, for lack of a better way to try to explain. Everybody was very straightforward. They said what they meant and they meant what they said most of the time. And if they didn't, one scene later, two scenes later, you get an explanation as to why that was done.
Yeah.
So like as a watcher, you don't have to pay that much attention and you don't have to be like your level of smart. You could just be an average Joe like me and still understand what's going on because they spoon feed it to you.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the kind of the draws for this too, is that this is not a very fast-paced anime. It's like we keep saying, we keep reiterating, it's a slow burn. This is a great anime if you are into that very soft, very calming kind of show. This is not a show that you typically would be getting amped up for, excited about, or anything like that. You're just watching it and you're enjoying it. Now there are comedic moments in there. There are points in there where it is funny. But those points are not the key point. Those aren't the focals of this series. It's really, I would say, the more so the story about Sei and then about her man, Albert.
Yeah. That was, it felt forced.
It was not forced. That did not feel forced. How did that feel forced?
To me. Like this felt like it had the makings of a reverse harem if she had the gumption. Otherwise, it felt like
no. How was that forced?
Feel like it.
How
to
was
me,
it forced?
it didn't. It felt like the saint for the saint to use their magic. Certain things need to happen. Certain triggers need to be put in place, and she didn't have those. So the story dictates that she needs them. And that's what I feel like happened here. He could have been replaced by any number of people, and the outcome would be identical.
So I'm trying to wrap my head around it here. So first of all, a majority of the show, they did not know or have confirmation that she was the saint.
Why would we be following her if she wasn't?
That doesn't mean we wouldn't follow her. It just means it's her story. But what I'm saying is, like, for the people in the show, they didn't know if she was or was not the saint. They had their speculations. They have their suspicions that it'll be one of the two, obviously, because they were both summoned there. But you can't force the feelings and the love. You can't force that emotion, that trigger there for it, especially when no one in the show or anyone else knew what the trigger was for those powers. So you can't say it's forced when it's not really explained. And on top of that, it is also talked about later on in the show that it is one particular trigger, and it doesn't have to be that romance, right? It doesn't have to be anything else, right? It could be a number of other things, right? So you can't.
I agree.
You can't exactly go, oh, that was shoehorned in there, because it wasn't shoehorned in there.
Well, what I mean to say is, as a viewer, as a writer, as a artist, designer, as a producer of this anime, obviously they know what's happening. To me, it didn't feel like a natural progression of our relationship or of feelings, if you will. It felt very much like she needs to like this guy. So,
well, you also need to remember that they do a lot of time skips in this show. Like, it's not just day to day to day to day. They do weeks go by, days go by, weeks go by, days go by. So you don't truly see every intricate detail or everything that leads up to that, right? You just know that there's massive time skips, and they're polite to tell you. They're letting you know X amount of time has gone by. All right.
Yeah, it is nice when they do that. I'm not going to lie. It was beneficial for, I think, everyone involved. But I mean to say, like, as the director knows that she needs a love interest. Oh, let's do Captain of the Guard, and let's make him blonde, blue eyes, super fancy, all that stuff. And yeah, she was denying it for a while. Yes, there was a lot of back and forth. Will she, won't she, will she? And it was a good part of the show that it was a will she, won't she situation, you know?
Well, it's not, again, you can't blame the director for this. You can't blame the story writers for this, right? Because it's based off of a light novel. And the romance in this is way more tamed down than what's in the light novel.
Oh.
Right. So that's honestly one of the kind of criticisms that this show has, is for people who have read the books and then watched the anime, is the criticisms is the romance was way too subtle between, especially for those emotional moments between the in the light novel versus the anime.
I mean, that makes sense. That would make a lot of sense, because again, it didn't feel authentic. Well, authentic's not the right way to put it. It didn't feel like a natural progression, whereas in the light novel, it probably did.
Right. Well, I mean, you also have to remember this is an anime, so they're going to have key points, you know, where they have to meet to have it go through in this very fantasy, non-realistic world. So before you start going and making realistic expectations of life, okay, all right, I just want to point out that you don't always use that, hey, this is not true to life argument all the time, all right? So
forced.
No.
Oh man. I mean, again, it's just my feeling. I've been wrong before. I welcome being wrong. But that was my only real gripe about it. You know what I mean? It felt...
It didn't feel
I felt
right.
like it could have been better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something was off.
Yes. Okay. I'll take that. I'll accept that. Yeah.
Who was the character you liked the least?
Ooh. Huh. Who did I like the
I got one.
least? Hit me.
I did not like the Grand Magus. It super strong guy, shows up 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, but they explained
Only really
it.
cares about. Yeah, they explained it. Only really cares about research. He doesn't really care about the consequences of said research.
Yeah.
Tends to hold back, but then when he doesn't hold back, it is scorched earth, almost literally, for being so powerful and so precise with certain magics. It seems that he seems very juvenile for the way he uses his spells rather than careful, controlled, place of power kind of thing. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Well, it has a lot to do with the
I'm saying that a
mentality.
lot.
Has to do a lot with his mentality.
Which is?
Someone that just doesn't view others as important aspects unless it's having to do with his research. And they've even commented that on that
Yep.
in and of itself. In fact, him being the Grand Magus, the only reason why he's even where he is because he is the strongest, magically speaking, of everyone in that entire kingdom. And in fact, Albert's brother even says, yo, you could be doing this, but you're not. And this is annoying. You should be doing this. And then he dips out. He's like, yo, I got things I need to do. Bye.
He gave him the Hokage treatment. That looks like a lot of paperwork. Sucks whoever has to do it. I'm not it later.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, but it fits the personality, right? Typically, when you have some characters who are not the main character, but a main character who is powerful, who is strong, who has like that overwhelming presence or authority, always skirts their responsibilities and offshores it onto other individuals who are the number two, so to speak, the vice captain or whatever you want to say, the lingo.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
well, I mean, it's a good show. I would recommend watching it at least once. I'm happy it's getting a season 2 or got a season 2. It's cute. It's a refresher. It's a good palate cleanser.
Yes.
Assuming you take it for that. Assuming you look at it and you're not like, oh, I need to maintain 100% focus all the time. And you're just,
Yeah.
One of the things I did not like is because the pace is as slow as it is, you could literally skip 2 episodes at a time and still maintain most of the story. There wasn't a lot of dead air, but there wasn't a lot of progress either. Do you understand, or am I wrong?
I mean, like, if you feel like that you could do that, yeah, that's fine. I don't think you can do that because while it's not rapid progress. No, I get it. This is not your typical cup of tea. This is not your normal bag. You usually go for something a little bit more fast paced or something that's a little bit more linear where you're getting straight to the point or it has the action, has all that ecchi, has all those TNA, has all that other stuff in there. And this definitely was not that show for you. This was very, very much a slow burn. Again, I know keep reiterating it. It is a slow burn. So if you do not dig that kind of show, this is definitely not going to be the show for you.
Yeah, this is like incense. Some people just don't like incense. Some people think it's worth it. Some people think that the cost is worth the what's left behind. And here is a really good example of that.
Right.
Not everyone's going to like it, but for those that do like it, it's a phenomenal show. True.
And I mean, like, I would say, honestly, if you liked like Snow White with the red hair, if you liked...
yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah. Then you would probably like the likelihood of you liking this is pretty good. They're both slow burns. They're not very action packed. However, you have a a completely different skill set in which you're doing it. But if you really dig that strong female lead where it's a slow burn romance, this would be a great comparison for it.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah, the only other thing I could say about this show without giving anything else away would be the artwork and the music are great.
Yeah.
The artwork and music are really, truly, they're great in the show. So and it's not that the artwork or show foremost for Rick. Yeah, probably it does. The artwork and music does carry the show more than the story itself. I personally feel the exact opposite, that I feel like the story, artwork, and music all carry the show all the way through personally.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Okay. So that's all I have to say. That's the last dealio for me. Right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say something along the lines of, without going into not only spoiler territory, but making the show irrelevant by delving further into it, leaving an experience that, for y'all to watch rather than just listen to us explain piece by piece.
Right.
That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah. All right. So in that case, on a scale of up to 10, sir, how would you rate this? For
me, this is a little bit better than middling. There was a lot to be desired for me. The feelings I got for it weren't fantastic, and I was a little bit anxious for the first quarter of it because I was just waiting for the shoe to drop. So I will give this a 7. Something I would recommend to other people. Something I wouldn't mind watching again now, knowing, but for the drawbacks, they're too big for just a single number down. So I'm gonna give it an 8.
You're gonna give it an 8?
Oh, sorry, 7. I'm giving it a 7. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Not
Okay.
8, 7.
Okay. For me, I really enjoyed it. It was a great show. I've actually seen this a couple of times. It's really honestly enjoyable for me. The story, world building, and character growth is, in my opinion, solid, along with the artwork and music that ties along with it is really good. It is not an action-packed show for sure, to say the least, but if you liked Snow White with red hair, or if you liked Ascendance of a Bookworm, or if you liked like any of the newer, like My Next Life as a Villainess, or any of those other ones within that realm of possibility, you'd probably like this too. Simply because it falls in that main vein for it.
Okay.
So for me, I'm giving it a 9. I enjoyed it.
Really?
I thoroughly enjoyed
it.
It was something I could watch multiple times. I've seen it multiple times, both dubbed and subbed. I've seen it both ways.
Oh.
So.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep. So next week, obviously, we're going to be doing season 2.
Season 2.
For this. So if you feel like we got something right, something wrong, did too much justice, not enough justice, or anything like that, feel free to let us know. All the contact information is in the show notes. And until next time, I'm Jack.
I'm Rick. And we'll see you next time.